How to avoid FOMO using a day one player's advice in Love and Deepspace. I'm about to share with you all of their tips and tricks that they learned since being a player since launch. Welcome back, my fellow flowers and beach blossoms of Linkon. In this particular video, I stumbled upon this post on Reddit. So once again, we will be taking to Reddit. A huge shout out to all the wonderful Redditors that post their comments and opinions for all of us to engage with and discuss. Now, this particular post, I always feel like I encounter these posts at the exact time that I truly need it, and I feel like if it helps me, I feel like I ought to share it with somebody else because it might help someone. Even if it's one or two people, it's probably most likely going to help somebody. So essentially, this player talks about all the tips and tricks that they learned and how to deal with FOMO, which is the fear of missing out. And with the gacha game, that is very evident due to the heavy limited banner system that they have going on. But the important tips that they discuss can really help, combat the strain and stress of that. So let us get straight into it. It's a bit lengthy, so yeah, just buckle up, get ready, and my advice would be to try to keep an open mind. You may agree, you may disagree, you may agree to disagree. That's completely okay, as always. As long as your opinion is respectful, it's totally okay. It's fine. In fact, I'm quite interested, very eager rather, as always, to learn about everybody else's opinions and thoughts and feelings. Other, day one players or other players who have been playing since, launch or at least close to launch. Maybe your opinions might be same or similar, or is it perhaps it might be different, I mean. So I look forward to reading everybody's comments as per usual and engaging in the comment section later on. So let's begin. The post reads, tips, but also understanding for the devs, from someone who has been playing since launch. Forgive me in advance because despite lurking on Reddit for months, this is actually my first time posting, so hopefully I'm doing this right. Anyway, I've been getting a lot of recommendations lately of Redditors being discouraged by the game, and I thought I would offer my 2 cents or advice in hopes of helping those people out. As a disclaimer, I am by no means an expert. This is just what I found to be the most helpful while I'm playing, and I'm sure there's a better alternative or alternatives or easier ways to do things. There's always room for learning. It's also worth noting that I am by no means putting anybody down for their complaints or discouragement. I've been there. I even stopped playing for a month or more because I couldn't figure out how to maximize my gameplay and rewards. Then I came back and suddenly everything clicked. Again, this is just stuff I've seen over and over again come up in the community, so please don't feel like I'm directly pointing anyone out, okay? There are actually a lot of lovely full guides in this subreddit already. So while this post does cover some of those tips and tricks, it is not really an exhaustive guide. This is more of a, hey, I hear you, and this is what I did to combat those feelings for myself. If this isn't allowed, please forgive me. Like I said, I'm still pretty new to Reddit overall. So the OP divides her post into different parts. The first part says, some common complaints or comments that I see. The first one, the main story updates are too slow. In defense of the developers or devs, we now have 5 love interests and a 6th coming soon, and each have their own branch of the main story. If it were a singular timeline with one linear story, I could understand the frustration. But I think where a lot of players don't understand that comes from a place of either being unfamiliar with how games like this work or not comprehending just how much work goes into making these updates. The reason we're getting so many banners and reruns of banners is because they're working on the main story simultaneously in the background for 5 different romance branches. Just think about that for a minute. Marinate in it. That's 5 different individual stories with different side plots, NPCs, settings, and personalities, not including the main overarching plot of the whole game. That is a hefty package to deliver, and if they want their players to be happy, it needs to be done right. I think I would be correct to say that most of us would be unhappy to have a rushed update with poor planning. And not to sound my age, trademark, oh that's funny, but I also feel like we're just used to living in a society at this point where we get instant gratification and waiting feels longer than it actually is. That last sentence really hits very deep. In this day and age, I can completely understand. I myself am someone who would be classified as a zillennial because I feel like I'm like a cusp of being a millennial and Gen Z fusion. All that for me to say is that I grew up at a time where I had to wait for extended periods of time, especially since I have been playing gacha games for over 11 years. So I remember during my during my early college days or during like my high school years, I would play not gacha, but essentially not gacha otome games. like the mobile otome games that we had, some of them from Voltage, but mostly the Ikemen series, the ones which were like Ikemen Prince, Ikemen Sengoku. I didn't play Ikemen Prince, I played Ikemen Sengoku and Ikemen Vampire. And like I was always free to play on, actually I have been free to play on every single gacha game I have ever played throughout my life, except when Love and Deepspace came into the picture, that changed things. But I do get that. So I used to wait. I used to have no problems in grinding and farming for my in-game currency. Even if it took days or months, I was like very comfortable with doing it. I was in no rush and it didn't really matter to me. Like I was happy to do the slow grind, but not everybody is going to be comfortable with that, right? Only people who I feel like enjoy routine and having like a set amount of things to do a certain times during the day of the week will probably enjoy it. People who favor routine, essentially, people who don't like routine might not be as into it and might get impatient quick, is what I'm trying to get at. They go on to say, I've been playing the game since its release, day one, and the fact that they're already doing several reruns of old banners absolutely blows my mind, because many other gacha games I play don't typically do them until after more than a year from its initial launch. All that to say, if you're looking for more lore while waiting on main story updates, check the readables. Play any myth cards you have. Myth cards, especially the directly tying into the romance branches of the main stories of the latest update. Bracket, very small spoiler if you are not caught up on the main story and its subsequent branches. The next part reads, I'm discouraged because I can't get XYZ. Like any gacha game, it takes dedicating time to grind for mats or materials within the game to really get anywhere. But you have options, and the devs have made it easier in recent months thanks to adding several new features like the Unicorn's Operation feature under battle, which is similar to Abyssal Chaos but much easier to run through. Yes, actually, just a side note, for day one players, or players who have been playing close to launch, the first 7 months of Love and Deepspace, meaning from January 18, 2024 until before Silas got released, right? Silas got released in July. So let's just say from Jan till June last year, there was no Abyssal Chaos and at all. Not even Abyssal Chaos, not even Unicorn's Operation. So imagine it must have been 10 times harder. And they were pumping out banners back then a lot more as well, even though it was just the OG3 guys. It was still very rapid for Raphael and Xavier mains. Yeah, so just note on that. Anyways, I am not a combat person, so I know I can feel like a slog, or it can feel like a slog, which is why I almost always set my battles to auto and just let it do its thing while I do something else, or let it run while I do something else. You have a point cap of 2000 points with Unicorn's Operations, but once you hit the cap, while you may not be able to unlock more reward tiers, this is a critical point, everyone, you can still unlock new codes, items, intel, etc. and get a lot of diamonds that way, actually, not just some diamonds. Collectively, you can get a lot. The way I run Unicorns and Abyssal Chaos is pretty much the same in terms of choices. First run through, pick the first box options. Second run, pick the second box options. It's a game of choices, okay? If you come across any with more than 2 choices, then do more run-throughs to pick up what you didn't get from the first 2 runs. This will help you max your rewards, unlock new stuff, and hopefully at least get you close to a full 100% run. And this can also unlock some hidden achievements, by the way. The companions rotate, so even if you don't 100% it this time, you can always try it again the next time it comes around. They also recently removed the commission points cap on Abyssal Chaos as well, so you can run that multiple times as well to get the things you haven't collected yet. Like Unicorns, there's still a reward level cap, but that doesn't have to stop you from getting the diamonds for finding new items, codes, etc. Also, this post is very fresh, by the way. It was just uploaded today. For me, it is currently the 28th of August, so this post is very, very fresh. The next part reads, my teams are weak. I'm sure this has been said before in another guide somewhere, but I've learned through my own gameplay, focus on enhancing your protocors. This is actually the secret to being successful in the battle side of the game, which I would argue accounts for half of the game overall, to be honest. Ignore anything that is not SSR or that does not have a gold stripe protocore and use the lesser rarities just for enhancing. This is highlighted. You do not need your cards to be at level 80 and awakened to have a powerful team. This is so true. Another very popular, guide, helper or combat expert, I would say, like which I mentioned in a previous video, Duchess_Arya. She often mentions that she always keeps her cards at level 60 to 70 unawakened, and the protocors are not even level 15. They're at +9, +12, and she has like more than 30, 35, or 36, stars and beyond, because she has three different accounts, one which is pay to play, and second and third accounts are 100% free to play, and she gets full senior hunter contest star badges there. So the proof is in the pudding, okay? So then they go on to say most of my teams are at 70 or close to it, while I'm maxing out the protocol enhancements, and they run everything just fine. And if I don't have enough SSR protocols to go around, I just switch them between cards depending on what I'm running until I can pull new protocols that I need. The next part reads, I never get diamonds and I don't wanna/can't pay to play. I totally get that. I don't currently have a job for medical reasons, so I've had to stop spending money on the game and find other ways instead to get diamonds. Achievements. When all else fails and you've exhausted all other options, including running combat stuff under the battle mode or auto otherwise, listening or watching all the visual and audio material, and leveling, ranking up memories, work on your achievements. If you're like me and I just want to get the rewards and achievements first, what I do is I initially have a lot of secret times and tender moments which I have piled up, because I am more of a visual person by nature. So I played those in the background with my phone volume down and just let it rotate through all the ones I hadn't played while I did something else. Then I collected the diamonds when they were done. I go through them again, of course, from time to time, and to listen to the actual content. Play the crane game or claw machines. I usually run them by myself because no one else other than Zane can pull a plushie to save their lives. LMAO. Play kitty cards. I found Caleb is the easiest to beat because he basically lets you cheat. So true. Playing either of these games will help you unlock the plushie or badges, which will in turn reward you with some achievements found in the spare time category. Also, work on your journal. If you haven't unlocked stuff already, there are quite a few achievements you can get for the journal that rewards both diamonds and additional decorations for the journal. You can also get an achievement for doing at least one page a week for 5 weeks. That was an easy one for me because I just personally love the journal. The last part of her post reads, there are a lot of other achievements you can easily grab for photo shoots and other things. You just have to go through and see what you can feasibly do. All of that to say, I completely get the frustration. I've been there. I felt the FOMO. I still feel it sometimes, especially when a really good banner comes up that I know I can't throw money at to ensure I get it. I just have to remind myself that number one, or A, there will always be a rerun later. And number two, the devs have worked really hard to give us the things we want. They do listen. I have seen it firsthand with my own feedback submissions reflected in new updates. I swear I'm not trying to come off as the one-woman defender of this game, because there were definitely issues I had when it first launched that almost made me quit the game. And there are still some issues now that I'd like to see them work on. But the devs listened to previous feedback and things improved. Slowly, but they did improve, and now I really enjoy it. We just have to give them a little patience, a little understanding, and a little grace about these things. In the end, it is a business, yes, but they also really do try to make high-quality content that their players deserve and can enjoy. I hope at least some of this was helpful. Now, a few comments that stood out to me. This one says, a lot of the frustrations with this game is tied to impatience. I think you need to be patient enough to accept that with this game, the good stuff will eventually come if you just keep at it. That's why my mantra with this game is that it's a marathon and not a sprint. Because if you treat it as a sprint, you will burn out very quickly. Extremely sound advice, especially in a day and age where Love and Deepspace is pumping out banners left, right, and center. This is very sound advice indeed. Another player said, I feel like tons of people never got to play traditional Otome games like the Voltage games back in the day, because I swear to God, the reading of 5 minutes of story a day or having to pay a lot more drove me nuts and gave me the patience of a saint. This is so true. Then OP responded, I actually wondered about this too and was going to mention it in my initial post, but I didn't want to make assumptions. Lol. I did sort of bring it up with the whole, we live in a society of instant gratification though, so I guess it still works. Maybe I just have a lot of patience because I was waking up at 3 a.m. while in college to answer calls and chats from my boys in Mystic Messenger back in 2015. This is relatable to a lot of players whose first Otome game might have been Mystic Messenger. But for me personally, I tried the game when I was in my high school days, and I just got a panic attack, or I got an anxiety attack from the random calls. So within just a few minutes of downloading it or an hour of downloading it, I ended up deleting it because I couldn't handle that type of pressure, okay? Another player said, I disagree with you for the main story. The main story progress is actually relatively slow, and yes, multi-banners can be nice, but most have little to no relevance to the plot, and personally, I don't even want the new multi-banners because I feel the story are almost too similar between all the allies, meaning the multi-banners are not unique to me. I feel Love and Deepspace should focus less on multi-banners and more on solo banners, rerun banners, and the main story. To which OP then responded, I can see why it might come off that way. I don't personally think the multi-banners are too similar to not be still enjoyable, but I also know that since there is a combat element, it makes sense for them to drop a lot of multi-banners because for those that do enjoy the combat, those players will want to make the optimal team. I think it just all goes back to giving feedback for the devs or developers and giving them time to take it into consideration and implement the changes as necessary. Another player said, while I agree with you about the game being long-term grind, I disagree about the quantity of the story updates. Coming from other open-world gacha games, I was shocked by how little content Love and Deepspace had. Games like Genshin or Wuthering Waves put out major updates every 2 months with hours of the main story, hours of side quests, new areas, new playable characters, and multiple unique events per update. Love and Deepspace, despite making nearly as much money as other big titles, is barely even releasing the same quantity of quests, even though they are not spending time and money on open world creation and have fewer characters, voice actors, events, and combat mechanics. This is not even mentioning the fact that the vast majority of the story content in Love and Deepspace is limited and has not rerun, meaning new players have very little to start with in comparison and miss out on huge parts of the allies' character. I think that Infold is completely capable of expanding their team to provide more main story content, longer Kindles, better voice acting, and a better story experience overall. They are choosing not to because they are making so much money on what they are giving us now. The game is only a year and a half old, so I hope they are realizing how dedicated the fan base is and will start to work to increase the quality of their product. And last but not least, this player says, oh man, I really agree with you on the instant gratification point. We really had to wait for things when I was younger. So I guess I am used to it. But also the last 10 years has been swept up in this concept as well, the whole instant gratification concept. It's good to take a step back and remember that not everything comes all at once. And that is a deep food for thought, a deep food for your soul, your mind, body, energy, emotional and mental connections, spiritual connections, whatever, words you would like to use to describe your, mental and emotional well-being or state of mind. I'm sorry if I am jumbling and fumbling. The thing is, this is such a deep, deep thing to actually sit with ourselves and, ponder upon because we love this game, right? We only have these types of criticisms because we freaking love and adore this game. I love the developers who put in so much hard work to bringing these characters to life. Of course, the writing team, the animators, the motion cap actors, the voice actors, the artists, the music composers, they bring this game to life. They breathe life into it. And that is what makes all of these characters so lovable and helps all of us to actually helps us to easily get emotionally involved and attached to these characters, right? To have feelings for them, essentially, almost. I know that whole parasocialism thing can be seen negatively, but it can also be seen positively, according to me, right? Like everything has their pros and cons, I will admit. Now, my overall tips for combating FOMO, I do have a lot of videos in my Love and Deepspace Guides playlist and even a few videos in my Love and Deep discussion playlist as well, which you can check out, which I have linked in the description box below. But essentially, the thing is, before you pull on a card, first of all, you need to figure out who is your main love interest. Do you even have a main love interest? Do you like just one guy, two guys, or multiple guys, or you don't have a favorite? This can greatly impact how are you going to actually do your pulls. Secondly, are you a combat girly or not? Do you really heavily invest in combat or you're not interested in combat? You're just interested in the story. Again, that can majorly impact the types of cards that you're going to pull. Thirdly, do you have enough diamonds to guarantee the card you want without fear of any disappointment? Like, according to me, and I have learned over 1 year now of playing, that you have to be prepared no matter if it's a solo card, a multi-banner, or a myth banner. You have to have 150 pulls prepared so that worst case scenario, you will still get something that you want without any disappointment. You can't go into these things thinking, oh, I have 50, 70 pulls, I'm gonna rely on luck and get it. No, you shouldn't go with that mindset. Prepare for the worst, hope for the best is the best mindset to have in these styles of gacha games. I mean, if you get lucky, hey, you get lucky, congratulations. Okay, that's awesome. But it's better not to be too delulu when it comes to at least this point of, the gameplay loop at least. And if you might see a card, maybe he's not your main guy, maybe you're not even going to build that character, but you just love the aesthetics and you love the theme. I mean, you should think about what events are coming after that. Now, we do have a speculated prediction roadmap, okay? It's not it's not official, it's unofficial, but the predictions have been scarily accurate up until now. So far, everything has been coming true from that prediction list, which has been floating around online. So that should give you a pretty good indication of how to strategically plan and prepare for your pulls. So it's like if you're going to participate in, for example, let's say you want to participate in Zane's birthday card. Okay, you have enough pulls and diamonds for it. Then next up could potentially be a Silas solo card. Are you okay with missing out Silas's solo? Then potentially Zane's myth. So do you have enough diamonds for that? Do you have enough diamonds for that? Yes or no? Are you trying to save for a rerun? Yes or no? That's what. Are you interested in participating in any rerun banners at all? If yes, that is a whole other discussion, because we know how gruesome and annoying the rerun banners are currently. They're way more expensive than the original runs of the events. They're way more expensive because of the limited number of packs people can purchase in the shops if they want to buy it. If you're free to play, you have even less of a shot at pulling the reruns unless you really desperately want a certain card, whether preferably myth cards, I guess, again depending on your playstyle. So you have to think multiple times before you make a sound decision. There will always be a greater sense of disappointment if you can't pull for your favorite guy's card versus in favor of just pulling for another guy's card that you might not feel as strongly about, but maybe you just like the theme of the card. But again, it's always better to save your pulls for a favorite. Even if you don't have an absolute favorite, at least one guy that you can tend to gravitate more towards, save your resources for him, because your future self is going to thank you for that. So anyways, my darling flowers of Linkon, I appreciate you listening up to the end. If you have, I highly appreciate you. I love you. I hope you have an awesome day, night, or evening wherever you are. And I'd appreciate if you could share your tips and tricks if you have been playing since day one or at least close to launch. Or maybe you have just been, or maybe you've played recently. Maybe you are 6 months and beyond, and you have learned valuable tips and insights to help you avoid the fear of missing out or FOMO. Please do share that in the comments below so we can all support each other and not be too delulu. Like, I know we say that delulu is the sululu, but not always when it comes to planning pulls for Love and Deepspace, especially with the diamond situation. Anyways, my darling flowers, I will see you in the next one. Oh, before that, make sure to claim your mailbox. Go into your mailbox and collect your hibiscus flower, the one which Caleb is wearing right now, and 200 diamonds in celebration of the lovely moonlit orchid day, and you get to read a cute little poem sent by Linkon City Hall. Until then, my fellow huntresses and beautiful flowers of Linkon, I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.